And you were listening to Season 6 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. All right, everyone, welcome back to Christian Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Rogers. Today, we have with us Mr. Rick Devericks, who is a medically retired 20-year Special Operations Green Beret Army veteran from Brunswick, Ohio. Rick's military service to our nation has taken him through 10 combat deployments on six different countries. Wow. Rick now lives in North Carolina near Fort Bragg with his family. He's passionate about his family and God, and also about veterans, archery, hunting, and the outdoors. Rick says he started shooting archery at the age of 15 and soon thereafter found himself enthusiastic about the sport, and he quickly began competing at a national level. He placed first in the National Field Archery Association's tournament, and he also placed in the finals in both the International Bowhunting or IBO Indoor World and the ASA national tournaments. Rick also competed at state and local level and won several different championships. Archery eventually had to take a back seat to his military, but as Rick started to reach the age of retirement, he eagerly jumped back into the sport once again, competing and placing in several local competitions. Rick later completed the 2017 Department of Defense's Warrior Games in 2017. He took home 2 silver medals, and later he took home a gold medal in the 2021 Invictus Games. We'll learn more about those in just a minute. But hoping to support other veterans, wounded warriors, and to share his love of archery, Rick started coaching the Warrior Games SOCOM archery team in 2019. Today, Rick continues to shoot archery and compete as often as possible, but his primary focus is on coaching and helping others to enjoy archery and to compete at a high level. Rick Devericks, thank you for joining us here at Christian Outdoors Podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you guys for having me today.
Absolutely. There's a lot there, Rick. My goodness, you've lived quite the life.
I've been
got
blessed.
a lot going on, bro. You had a
Yes,
lot
sir.
going on. So, as we said before we started recording, let's go back to when you were 15 years old or just before that, and you got introduced to archery and how that has played a role in your life. And then I'll just let you tell your story from there.
Yes, sir. So I was about 15 years old. My uncle started talking about, hey, you want to shoot a bow? Luckily, he bought me my first bow when I was 15. It was a Browning hunting bow.
Okay.
Started shooting that and instantly just kind of fell in love with it. I didn't have a lot of money back then. I had a chest full of baseball cards, and I decided that I wanted my first competition bow. So I actually sold a whole chest full of baseball cards, so I was able to buy my first competition bow back then.
Cool.
Immediately fell in love with it. Luckily, I belonged to a good bow club. Got some of the more senior guys on the thing to kind of let me tag along as a 15, 16-year-old with them. They kind
Mhm.
of showed me the ropes and luckily let me travel with them around to be able to shoot a lot of the national tournaments, and
Well,
it got me away from home, got me in a good place, and it just
mhm.
did wonders for me.
Let's you just said something that I've been meaning to bring on other shows. I have had archers on here for the novice. Explain the difference in a hunting bow and a competition bow.
So hunting bow is more kind of set up for hunting animals in the woods. Short stabilizers, not really a scope, so it doesn't get messed up in the outdoors. Versus a competition bow, depending on what class you're in. I run a 30-inch stabilizer off the front. A lot of times we run a lens inside our scope so you can see the target closer than it appears. So
Mm-hmm.
just a little more different things that would be affected by the atmosphere that you wouldn't want to use if you were actually hunting or space confined in a hunting situation.
Okay. All right. So other than sights and stabilizer, they typically have a longer axle to axle length as well, do they
Yes, sir.
not?
That's correct. Yeah, like most hunting bows are between 30 to 34. Target bows are more tend to be like 35 to 40.
Okay. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong here also, is that on the what we're referring to as competition bows,
Yes, sir.
um, is that totally lost what I was fixing ready to ask.
It's
Gone.
okay. It's a
Gone.
Monday. It's a Monday.
Yes, it is. It is. It had to do with the sight and the rest. When you talk about the lens, just again for the novice,
Yes, sir.
on my competition bow, I shot a CBE and I had a 6X lens in it, but I could change it to a 4 if I needed to. So basically, that's a magnifier for that um, makes
Hey,
your target look closer.
Yes, sir. It makes it look closer than it appears. It's obviously, it's a catch-22. It's great because you can see the target better, but it also shows all your mistakes. If you think you hold your bow really steady, put a 6 or an 8 power lens in there, and it'll show you what you're really doing.
And you think, there's no way I can hit this. That old pin's doing this right here the
Yep.
whole time. And
Yes, sir. It's just
I
called
know.
trusting. It's just called trusting your float. You got to remember your shot process. Go through your shot process correctly, and it'll still go where it's supposed to go.
That's right. You just kind of start slowing down the float and then just, it's right here somewhere and let it ride. Right.
Yes, sir.
I know when I first did that, I was like, good gosh, I'm surprised I can hit the target as much as I'm moving.
Yeah, it's
Especially
definitely an
at those
experience when you
longer
first change over.
Yeah, especially at those longer ranges, like the field archery association. So explain real quick the difference in field archery and like a 3D or a bullseye target, for lack of
Yes,
a better
sir.
word.
And I shoot all of them. My passion is 3D, but I shoot all of them to make me better at 3D. 3D means foam animals when you're out in the woods, IBO, Archery Shooters Association, those kind of leagues. Field target is more of like a paper target with round circles. It could be anywhere from 18 feet all the way out to 80 yards or 80 meters, depending on what association you're shooting for field
Yeah.
archery. A lot of you guys are familiar with the Vegas targets or the 20-yard indoor tournaments like Lancaster or Vegas, and you shoot at 20 yards, at an indoor target. And then you go into 3D, there's all different kinds of foam animals, depending on what class you're in. You can shoot anywhere from 30 yards all the way out to 60 yards now in the pro class.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
a long way and when you're shooting for 12s or 14s, and that's the size of a quarter,
yes, sir.
basically, roughly.
Yes, sir.
Um, and it's a high risk, high reward thing there. Personally, I prefer bullseyes.
Yes, sir.
I like to shoot the bullseye because for Pete, it's trying to repeat the perfect shot every time.
Yes, sir. And
Which
again,
is
that's why I shoot
so
indoor.
hard. Yeah, yeah, so hard to do.
It is.
And if you've ever done it and you watch some of these competitions, it just blows my mind that these people can hit 30 X's day after day after day with the pressure that they have as well.
Yes, sir. It's intense. It's crazy. You see some
Yeah.
of the new guys. I mean, we could talk about Bodie Turner, for example, 16-year-old kid that just does not miss the X every single time.
Why?
Yeah,
Why? Yeah. Go away. You make me feel terrible.
I know, right? Like, hey, congratulations, but
Yeah.
to be young again. Also, I mean, obviously he's younger. He's able to hold the bow like rock solid. As fortunately,
Yeah.
I turned 50 next year. I just can't hold as steady as I used to.
Well, I'm in my 60s, so I'm
So
61. So wait till you get here.
there you go.
Okay. The poundage goes down a lot. And but that's one thing I learned too, though, Rick, is that when you're shooting in tournaments, competition, you don't need to shoot 50, 60, 70 pound limbs. You can shoot, whatever is comfortable for you because you just adjust your sights accordingly.
That is
Um,
correct, sir. None of my tournament bows are as much poundage as my hunting bow is.
right, right. And I was shooting down to 51 pounds on my competition because I shot a lot of 900. So you're shooting
Yes, sir.
90 arrows, right? So
Yes,
the
sir.
fatigue factor would really wear in there. So I just kept dropping the weight and I got down to 51 pounds, which is as low as my competition bow would go at the time. But some of the guys that I was shooting with, they were shooting in the low 40 pounds. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
care how much arch is on the arrow, as long as it hits the
No.
center.
Yeah, it's known distance, so you're not really worried about the speed. For the guys that shoot the unknown distances, they need that speed. But if you're shooting known distance, it's all about just getting your sight adjusted where you need to be. The poundage doesn't matter.
Right, right, right. And you see that with the Olympic archers shooting recurve at 70 meters, which is what, 77 yards.
Yes,
And they're
sir.
shooting 38, 40 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Of course, they're aiming at the moon and lobbing it right in there. They got the target facing almost straight up. Uh,
Yes, sir. But hey, it's all about your shot process. No matter
it
what
is.
no matter what the distance is, no matter how much poundage you're shooting, as long as you have a good basis on your shot process, it's all going to work out.
Right, right, right. So you shot all this competition for a long time and then you went into the military.
Yes, sir. Just crazy as it is, just on a whim one day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to join the army. I was 22 years old at the time. I was already had a good job, making good money, living life, and I was just all of a sudden I was like, I want to go ahead and join the military. I just wanted something different in my life. Um, Joined the
Not many people
military in September
join
of
the army.
I'm
Not many
sorry,
people
sir.
join on a whim.
Yes, sir.
You know, just wake. I think I'll join the army.
Yeah, it's kind of how it was for me. I was just had my first child. I was like, just was like, you know what? Let's join the army. Let's join the army and travel. Let's go see the world on the army's dollar, basically. Um,
Okay,
Joined in September of '98 and ended up being the best decision I've ever made in my life.
and you want to explain that?
Yeah, like I said, I came from a little bit of a rough background, so just the fact of being able to get away from that home life and start my own life, the discipline and the experiences that I had no idea the discipline, the experiences, and the adventures that was going to lead to me the next 20 years. I
Mm.
started out in the infantry, spent about 4 years in the infantry, and I kept wanting to do more. So I was regular infantry. And then I decided I wanted to go to airborne infantry. Went there for about 2 years, and I decided I wanted to go to selections, which is a special forces course. You have to go to selections, and then if you get selected, then you get to go to a 1.5 to 2 year school to be a Green Beret.
Oh wow, I had no idea the school was that long for a Green Beret.
Yes,
But
sir.
I think it's because the people that's not in it don't understand what all's involved in it,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And 10 combat missions.
Yes, sir.
My goodness, that is a lot.
I tell people it's amazing what you can get used to. Is the best
Yeah.
words for that. There was times where being home was more awkward to me than being in Afghanistan. I spent most of my time in Afghanistan, and it was easier for me to be in Afghanistan sometimes than it was being home, because when you're over there, home life kind of stops. You don't have the worries of home. You don't have you just, yeah, you're going out and fighting the combat, but you know what that is on a daily basis versus being at home.
That's I've had a lot of veterans on the show, and that's the first time I've heard it explained that way, Rick. Because when you're in country, every day is pretty much you know what you have to do.
Yes, sir.
Stay alive, number one.
Yes,
Protect
sir.
your buddies. Protect your buddies, number two. The guy on your right and the guy on your left, and complete the mission, whatever
Yes, sir.
that day's mission is. But when you're home, life's chaotic.
It is, sir.
It's
I,
hard.
I don't care who you are, what you do. At one point in your life, it's chaotic. You're like, man, this is a lot. There's a lot of stressors at home that you just don't have. People think of it like, oh, you're being shot at, but it's just completely different than dealing with the stressors of, being at home and the home front.
Yeah. Um, Kind of dive into that a little bit for the people that don't really understand how you mean who maybe have never been in combat and listen to this. They're they're like that has to be worse and harder to deal with
And again,
than
it goes
you know.
back to my initial statement. It's amazing what you can get used to when you train for so long to do something. Like being as a Green Beret, you train and train and train. Even when you're not there, even when you're back home, you're training automatically to go back to your next deployment. So when you train so much for stuff, it just becomes second nature, and it seems it's pretty easy to do because you've been training for it. You're at home, you're not training for life. You're just living life day by day, going through the motion. But you're constantly training for that next mission, and you actually go and get to do that training. It's just more natural for you, at least for me. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it was natural for me to be over there doing what I love, fighting for my country.
So the analogy that came to mind when you were saying that, as a someone who played baseball for a long time, was that would be like just practicing forever and never getting to go to the game.
Yes, sir.
And I got to practice again.
Yeah.
God, how many more times do I have to hit batting practice, take infield, blah blah blah, do all this stuff, and you never get to go to the game.
Yes, sir.
So
That's 1,000%
that's
right.
okay. All right. And so when you go to get a deployment, we're no longer practicing. We finally get to use what we've been working on for all this time.
Yes, sir. You're
Okay.
absolutely correct.
Okay. All right. So how did your faith work in all this?
So I've always believed in God. I've never been a disbeliever. The childhood that I had and the upbringing that I had didn't allow me to go to church that much, or didn't allow me to really practice my faith. It was always still there in the back of my mind about, hey, I love God. God is why I'm here.
Mm.
Kind of rodeoed for 10 years off and on before I joined the military. Rode bulls. give me some opportunities to do some things with Cowboys for Christ. I was able to go to services before the rodeo started and stuff like that, and it started to broaden my faith. Of course, I pray God not to get hurt by the bull that night. Um, so I've
Pretty
made a lot
common
of
prayer at the rodeo, I bet, huh?
yeah, I've made a lot of life choices where I depended on God's faith and God's bubble around me to keep me safe. From rodeoing to then I joined the military. Then I wanted to jump out of planes. Jumped out of planes for 20 years, and then I decided to go to be a Green Beret, which left me in 10 combat deployments. Which, knock on wood, uh, God was by my side all the way. There's plenty of times where I didn't understand why I'm the one that made it home, and I've lost a lot of brothers, a lot of friends, countless. And it's
Yeah.
always like, why me? And I'm like, well, thank you, God. I don't know your plan, and nobody does, but I'm glad that you're still including me in your plan at this point. Um,
Mhm.
of course, I hate the loss of my brothers and sisters in combat, but it was their time to go, and it wasn't mine. And I hate it for them. I respect them, and I still cherish them all the time. We say that people die twice. You die your initial time, and then you die when people stop talking about you. So if we never forget those people that we've lost, and the soldiers and the other ones that we've lost, then they're never really forgotten. So
Mm.
that's the biggest thing is never forget.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I said earlier, Rick, I've had a lot of veterans on the show because I really, really am, I don't even know the word, appreciative of all the veterans who have served. I personally never served, but as I told you before, my son and son-in-law are serving, and I'm just eternally grateful for everyone that is willing to make that sacrifice so that I can do what I do.
Yes, sir.
Um, but in what you said, one of the things I've heard from a lot of veterans who have come home from deployments is the guilt. Is that something that you have dealt with, and how has your faith helped you with that?
Oh, yes, sir. That's like I said. Again, for my experience, I can only speak on my experience, but for like the things that I've done and the ways that the ways that I've lived, that's the only way I could have got through it is with God. Like I said, we come home, we have guilt. Why me, God? Why? He has this life. Why did you save me, not him? Um, but we all we can do is protect our brothers to the left and right as best as possible, and let God, live God's journey. So definitely, as I grew in the military and as I got older, my faith increased, and I was able to practice my faith more. I started going to church a lot more. When I was home stateside or when I was deployed, of course, there's some opportunities for us to attend church while we're over there. During downtime. So of course,
Mhm.
I would go there and pray for myself and pray for my family back home and pray for my brothers. That we all make it home. Of course,
Mhm.
sometimes didn't always happen, but um, we're always there praying for them. And as I got out of the military, it just, I mean, once I was saved, I realized that, hey, I've lived my life in Christ, but I never really gave my life to Christ.
Mm.
I gave my life to Christ, and I've never looked back. I've got to where it's my comfort zone to be able to rely on God and trust God and give my faith and talk to other people about God.
Mhm.
Um, it's
When did
been
that happen, Rick? When did you
it,
give your life to Christ?
in 2010.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you
Uh,
were serving at the time?
Yes, sir. Yep, it was 2010. I still had 8 more years left during my service at that time. So a
Okay.
couple more deployments. It was right when I started my instructor time. I kind of had a little bit of a break from deployment because I had 3 years of instructor time
Okay.
where I do my job to raise up the new guys that are coming in, to be Green Berets and teach them in the schoolhouse.
Okay. All right.
So it gave me a little more time to practice my faith, and I just realized that, yeah, I loved God, and I tried to put God in my life, but I really didn't devote my life to God at that point.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and then it's just been living for Him ever since. I pray for Him. I pray every night that He kind of shows Him in my life in some way, one or another. So I go to like shoots that are based on Christian faith sometimes. I try to put myself around other Christians as I shoot archery and try to broaden that horizon. It's crazy the little thing now, like you've seen everybody's carrying around these little Jesuses with them.
Oh, I got a pile of them, man. I give them out all the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you would not believe when you start talking to someone and you give them one of these, how it changes the conversation. Some people are just kind of like, "Oh, thank
it
you," but
really
some
does.
people are like, yeah, some people just like, man, it's such a little thing that you can do that you give to somebody
Yeah,
once you start talking about, like, you know what, hey, everybody needs and that's what you say, everybody needs a little Jesus.
that's
So,
right.
and it's
That's right.
crazy how little things like that can start a conversation or brighten someone's day. Our world focuses
Yeah,
so much still on hate and just differences, and at the end of the day, we're supposed, God says we're supposed to love one another,
yeah.
put our differences aside, and still treat each other equally and love one another.
Hmm.
And we all still could learn from that every single day.
Absolutely. And it's a great icebreaker. I mean, someone gave me one of those little G's, which I should have brought one in here. I didn't know I was going to need it, but one of those when I was working at the Harrisburg show this past winter. And I was like, that is the coolest thing, man. What an icebreaker it is, right?
Yeah.
And, and we just got to talking. I was like, I got to get me some of those. And I came home and immediately ordered a pack of 100. And I know you get anything on Amazon. I
Oh, you
love Jeff
can.
Bezos for
Yeah.
that. But, um, and I have, man, I've been giving them out regularly. And whenever
Yes,
I
sir.
remember to grab a handful and put in my pocket when I'm leaving home. And like you said, it's just a good icebreaker. Sometimes it
Yeah, it
doesn't
is.
mean they just look and say, "Oh, well, that's cool." And they put it in their pocket, but they
But you
put it in
don't
their
know what.
pocket.
But the key thing is you don't know when they're going to take that out of their pocket again, and might strike something
Right,
up. And
right, and put it in their pocket every day because
yes,
of
sir.
that.
Yep.
You know? And other times it opens for conversation, and you
Yes, sir.
just go with the conversation. It's a great icebreaker. I don't know who invented it, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
yeah, yeah, it's a
I was at a shoot a couple weeks ago up in Wisconsin with Chris Ham, from
yeah, yeah.
HHA. Yeah, great friend of mine, a great fellow believer in Christ, and he was actually
Hmm.
talking to me about it, and he ended up giving me one in my hand.
Oh, did
Yeah, and that led for me to go home and buy another bag as well.
he?
Um,
Yeah,
I was like, you
Chris is
know
a great
what?
guy.
He's a phenomenal guy. I met Chris actually back in 2017 at Warrior Games, and you
Okay.
would have thought it just seems like you would have thought we've known each other all our lives. We've just been great friends since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's who told me about you and getting you on the show. But yeah, Chris is a great guy, just a great advocate for Christ and for the sport of archery, but especially his faith in Christ.
Yes, yes, sir. I
And
agree.
so after the army, you got back into archery. So
Well,
explain.
it wasn't after the army.
Go ahead.
So as I was getting ready to retire, I was starting to do my processing to get out and everything. And of course, I have a lot of injuries and stuff like that from being 20 years in the military. And they're like, "Hey, do you want to compete in Warrior Games?" At that time, I had no idea what Warrior Games was. I was like, "Warrior Games, what is that?" It's like, "Oh, you
Look,
get to do stuff."
explain it to us because we may
Yes,
not
sir.
know.
I will. Yep. So basically, it's an Olympic events for wounded soldiers. They
Hmm,
have rifle, pistol, archery, and this is what got me. They're like, "Oh, you can compete in archery, rifle, pistol," and I was like, archery. I used to love archery. But they have wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, swimming, track and field, uh, powerlifting, wheelchair basketball. It's an amazing thing. If you guys can Google it, watch some of it on YouTube. It's an amazing thing to watch. Especially wheelchair rugby. They just slam those wheelchairs
I
into each other.
cannot imagine that. That's pretty
It is
violent.
fun to watch. Uh, so I got asked to compete in that in 17, and just that made me fall back in love with archery. I ended up me and another friend of mine, we ended up making it all the way to gold and silver match. Uh, and I ended up winning silver. He ended up winning gold, and just couldn't have been happier. And it sparked my love for archery all over again. Literally, as soon as I shot that, the following year, I went to the Lancaster Classic and just dove headfirst back into archery.
Okay.
Um, and just fell in love with it. And then in 19, they asked me to come back and be the coach. And at that time, I didn't realize how rewarding that opportunity was going to be. Not only did I get to compete in Warrior Games, but now I'm the one that gets to go back and teach these new wounded guys that are dealing with, all kinds of stuff,
Right.
how to shoot a bow. And we've really realized in the last couple of years how just phenomenal archery has been for veterans and even active duty still. Just the mental process of archery has helped them get through whatever they're going through at home, or just for that minute they're forgetting about the rest of the world and focusing on their bow and the target. And guys that I've gotten into archery now have just been like, thank you so much. I never knew I needed this, or I never knew that what this would do for me. um So it's kind of turned into my passion. I want to get as many bows in as many veterans' hands as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And the thing I
Well,
love about the way I coach is there's no restrictions that can keep you from shooting a bow. Whatever you need, whatever whatever ailment you have, whatever disability you have, whatever amputee you have, we can figure out a way for you to shoot a bow. I got guys that shoot a bow with their mouth. I got guys that we make a device where it holds the release here, and guys activate it with their chin. So a lot of people focus
yeah,
on, well, you got to
yeah.
shoot a bow this way, and working with all the
They
soldiers
make
and
make a whoever these people are that make these adaptive releases and bow holders
yes,
and
sir.
sights and all these kinds of things. It's just amazing.
I
Some
mean,
of the things that you see that
You look at Matt, the armless archer, and you can't tell me that you can't shoot a bow. He is amazing.
he
I mean,
really is. He really is.
so
I,
nobody
I
nobody
can't
can
do
look at
that
me
with
and
two
say,
good
"Oh, I
arms. So
can't."
I don't,
I know, right? So nobody can
yeah.
look at me and say, "Oh, I can't shoot a bow." If there's a will, there's a way, and we'll get you to be able to shoot that bow. And that's my biggest philosophy.
Mhm.
And working with vets is like, look, we're going to work around you. We're going to make it work for you. Whatever that looks like, I'm going to do my best to make it work for you, so you can enjoy that thing that everybody
Right.
else is enjoying.
Well, and one of the things that you commented on that I want to expound on, you talked about getting them into the mental side of archery and how that frees up everything else. Is archery is like very few other activities in that you have to be so focused on what you're doing that it has to block out everything else.
Yes, sir.
And so while you're in the process of that event, shoot, practice, whatever it is, you're not thinking about the bills that have to be paid. You're not thinking about the guys that got left behind. You're not thinking about these other things that you deal with on every page. For that block of time that you're there, you are so solely focused on that. And that is one of the things about it that makes it so cool is that you can just get away from everything while you're doing that.
No, you're absolutely correct, sir. And that's it. And since then I've started working with other organizations, Index Archery out of Virginia. They kind of have the same mentality and the same process. And I recently just started working with them. And literally, if you're a vet and if you're going through stuff, you're active duty. If you want to find a bow, we'll find a way to get you into archery. Don't let cost
Okay.
stop you. Don't let cost stop you. Don't let disability stop you. One way or another, let's get a bow in your hands and at least just try it out. For me, I think you'll find that
Right.
it does wonderful things for you.
But you live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, if I'm correct, and
Yes,
so
sir.
or the area. Um, but if I'm a veteran and I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I want to get involved in this, but my coach is all the way across the country, how does that work?
So there's multiple different nonprofits that you can try to look up for. You can reach out, go to your local archery shop, say, hey, I'm a veteran. There's any nonprofits, or reach out to me, reach out to, Index Archery, um, any place, any nonprofit veterans thing. And they'll find a way to get you connected with somebody either in your area, or I've done stuff on video where I've gotten a veteran a bow, and I've talked them through how to start shooting through webcam, or through
Yeah.
Google Meet or whatever. However we have to do it, I'll talk you through this on video. If I'm not able to be in your location, we'll start out meeting like this, and we'll try to get you, shooting a bow like this if we have to.
And I got to tell you, as I am a horrible archery coach. Okay, horrible. Ask my children. I'm like I don't even know where to start to teach somebody who's never done it and to try to teach them because there's so many different little nuances
There
that
is.
I have progressed past and I've forgotten. Right. And you're
Yes, sir.
taking somebody who doesn't know anything. Well, hold it if you're right handed, hold it in your left hand,
Mm-hmm.
draw with your right. And I mean, that's pretty much the extent of my coaching ability on archery. Uh,
Well, my biggest thing is I try to go into, especially with the new archer, into a very open mind. A lot of coaches will be like, "Oh, this is the way you have to shoot archery, and this is the only way you can shoot archery." The biggest thing about archery is repeatability, right?
Right.
So what you can repeat and what I can repeat might be something different. So I want to work with each individual and be like, all right, what are you able to repeat? Not what can everybody else repeat. What can you repeat to make you a better archer? I lost
All
you
right,
there
you're
for
back.
a minute.
Yeah, I want to work with each individual, you said.
Yes, sir. Yep. And figure out what they can do, how they can repeat a shot process. Not, hey, this is what a shot process looks like. You need to repeat this. No. That's some of the best ones are the new archers that have never done it before because they don't have any bad habits yet.
Yeah,
So I'm
that
able to
makes
work.
sense.
I'm able to work with them, and I'm more open minded about their disabilities because the people that I get to work with. So I'm like, hey, are you able to move your arm back that far? Are you able to do this? Okay, you can't do that. All right, well let's work around it. Now this is your form because it's the
Yeah,
best that you can do.
yeah. But just little things that setting the rest up, setting the sight
Yes, sir.
up, getting everything in the right order, getting everything adjusted to correct. Those are the things that blows me away. I don't want to get into that nuances
Yeah,
of it, but you start with a basic thing. You're shooting at 10, 15 yards just to get through the process. And then you start adding things as you go, I'm assuming.
yes, sir. Yeah, the best training I tell people the best training you can do is 5 yards away,
Mm.
and it's called blank bailing. You just go to a target 5 yards away, no target, nothing else. So that way you're not going to miss the target and just totally focus on yourself. Focus on your form, focus on your shot process. The rest of the stuff will come later. If you can build up yourself a good shot process at 5 yards, the rest will come as you go. Don't worry about it. Don't come out expecting to, I want to hit the problem is when you're working with veterans is we're all A-type personality and we want
Yeah.
to be the best that we can be right as we do something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And they pick
don't
up the
get
bow and get 80 yards away and wonder why they missed it by 30 feet. Yeah.
right. So,
Yeah.
but that's the A type that we're dealing with, and that's okay. That's why I started them out at 5 yards on a blank target. They don't have nothing to hit, so they don't have nothing to miss.
Hmm.
So just totally focus on your shot process. Work on this at this distance, and we'll move back. A lot of times, like
Yeah.
when I'm running like a camp for veterans and stuff, I don't even let them have a target till like day 3.
They
So
just
we're
drawing.
we're 2 days of just blank bailing and working on your form and correcting that and seeing what you're capable of.
Right. Right. That's got to frustrate the mess out of them, doesn't it?
It does
Hit,
sometimes, but
hit me a target.
yeah, but after they realize and after they do it, they're like, "Wow, that was really for a reason." I'm like, "Yeah, it
Yeah.
got you to focus on you and not try."
Someone out. You use a finger release, thumb, or what?
It depends on where I'm at, what equipment I have at the time. A lot of times, like if guys are going to shoot compound, of course, I'll start them out with a release. The cool thing about Warrior games is we have a recurve side and a compound side, so we're able to let guys shoot both and see what feels better for them and with their disabilities. See which one they're able to shoot better, either a recurve or a compound.
What pound? The poundage of
Mo-
draw,
most of
like
our
on the
co- most of
recurve.
our most of our compounds are 40 to 50 pounds, somewhere in there. Our recurves are usually between 20 to 30 pounds.
Yeah. And it's a big difference in the recurve and which you have a wall full of compound bows behind you. I have a wall of recurves and longbows in
Yes,
the other
sir.
room.
I have a few of the longbows. I have a few of the longbows up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love shooting them. I love how
Yeah,
forgiving
they're
they are.
fun.
Yeah. I love the fact that I can at 30 yards or say even 25 yards, I can shoot the arrow, drink a cup of coffee and wait for it to hit the target.
Well, it's funny.
It is the
We talked about people not having money for a bow. One of my favorite things to do is hold on a second. Let me grab it here. One of my favorite things to do here is teach people how to build this $5 bow. It's literally just made out of
oh, the
PVC
PVC.
pipe and a 550
Yeah.
cord. And it
Yeah.
allows you to go
Works.
home. Yeah, if you can't go home or you can't afford a bow at the time, it allows you to still go home and you can set up with a release or his fingers, but it allows you to go home and actually practice without having a real bow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really
And
cool.
that's 3/4 inch schedule 40 PVC, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. And just a piece of
Right.
550 cord.
Just for anybody who may be watching or listening, what's the length of it?
So right, well, I usually do whatever length you are. Right around 6 foot is usually. I've tried different lengths, and usually right around 6 foot's the best one to work with.
Okay. Yeah. So 72 inches, 6 feet, piece
Yes,
of three
sir.
quarter inch PVC,
Yep.
and find the middle of it, dead, dead
Yes,
middle.
sir. Yep.
Then
Dead
you,
center.
then you just then you just tie some paracord on it,
Yep.
and now you have a bow.
And I do
That's
I even mark the center so you can see like kind of where the arrow would where you'd want the arrow to be, and just kind of let it rest on your hand. I
yeah,
do this a lot for the Boy Scouts that I teach, or the 4-H kids. I'll do a class and let them build all these bows, and then they get to shoot them. I mean,
yeah.
you can easily shoot 20 yards, up to 20 yards with this.
I wonder what the draw weight is on that. Have you ever tested
I
it?
don't have I don't know, I've never tested it.
What do
It's
you
really
guess?
light.
Yeah, 15 to
Yeah.
20 pounds, maybe.
Yeah, probably less than
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just,
That's
it's
cool.
just one of those things. If you want to shoot, there's a will. Where there's a will, there's a way.
There is, there
So
is.
don't
That's
tell
cool.
yourself, "Oh, I don't have the money for it. I don't have this." This is a great starting point. Hey, if you don't have a bow or you can't get to a bow immediately, let's start with this. You can get some cheaper arrows to
Yeah,
start off with at Walmart, or
it's amazing too how inexpensive used recurves are on eBay or on Facebook Marketplace. For those, you can pick up a used recurve for $30 all day long.
oh yeah,
I
yes
mean,
sir,
it may not be today, but it'll be on there pretty regular. You can see these used. Somebody inherited it, or they picked it up at a yard sale or whatever, and they're just trying to flip it. But they're very inexpensive, and it's a good way to
no,
get started. Like I
yeah.
said, all my
People get
recurves are
intimidated. They
45
look
or
at
less.
People get intimidated. They look at a target setup and they're like, I can't afford that. Well, no, I couldn't. I couldn't afford that back in the day either. Like I said, to
Right.
get my first one, I had to sell a whole trunk full of baseball
Yeah.
cards just
Yeah.
to start out in the
Yeah.
sport.
And I mean, and that's a whole nother subject if we want to get into the price of modern compound bows in today's world. It's they're getting pretty expensive.
They can
The
be, yes,
price,
sir.
yeah, they're getting into the thousands of dollars on for a new flagship bow. But there's plenty of used bows out there, and um, um, not the flagship, different levels of bows by every manufacturer that can hit. What I'm trying to say, every price point. That's the word I was looking
Yes,
for. They
sir.
can hit
Yeah,
just about
and
every price point.
as a coach, of
Go
course,
ahead.
everybody's like, well, "What bow do you shoot? What's the best bow out there?" And of course, I have the bows that I shoot. This year, I'm currently shooting Elite. But I tell people the best experience you can have is go to an actual archery shop. Don't go to a Bass Pro. Don't go to a big box store. Go to an actual archery shop and pick up every single bow that they will let you shoot. The one that
Hmm.
feels the most comfortable to you is the bow that you should shoot.
Yes, yes. Forget the brand that's on it.
Yep, yep. I tell people it's like
Forget
Ford and Chevy. It's the same
it
thing.
is
It all depends on what comfortable you feel better behind the wheel. What's you're the one holding that bow. What feels good to you
right.
might not feel good to me.
Right. Right. And it's so true because I mean, I'm fortunate I get to go to the ATA show pretty regularly. And I shoot all I will spend 3/4 of a day going and shooting whatever's new right there. And I just take one or two shots. That's all.
Yes,
Just one or
sir.
two shots just to get a feel. And at some point you realize whether it's Elite or PSE or Matthews or Hoyt or Prime or whatever, they're all really good.
Yes, sir.
They're all
Any of the top bow companies nowadays, if you buy their top of the line bow, you're getting a good product.
right, right. And for many of the not as popular brands out there, they're manufactured by Hoyt or Matthews or Prime or for I mean they are. I worked with
Hmm.
one of the brands I just mentioned for a long time, and what I realized is that they make that bow for that guy and they make this bow and this private labeled, right? Made to different specs, but
Yes, sir.
they're the manufacturer for some of these smaller brands because they
Yeah.
don't have the tooling to make it, so they're paying them to make it for them.
Either that or their engineer at one point left and decided to go out on his own, and then started that
Yeah,
bow company.
yeah, which happens a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It
sir.
happens a lot. It happens a lot, but they're all good. Is the point? They're all good, and it's like you said. You go shoot some, and you say this one feels the best for me.
Yeah,
And there's one that
again. Like
uh,
again, of course, I'm
go ahead.
brand loyal, to brands that I shoot. But again, as a coach, I would be doing people injustice by saying no. This is the best bow to shoot. Only shoot this bow. So,
right, right. There was a bow I shot years ago, made by Prime when they first came out with their dual cams, which I absolutely love that concept. It was their shift. It was like their third from the flagship. It's the only bow I've ever shot that fit me absolutely perfectly.
wow.
I mean, absolutely perfect. When I drew back, I just had shoulder surgery, so I can't raise
Yes,
this
sir.
arm. But when I drew back, it was like right there at my draw length. It was so perfect, and it shot so well that I was like, "Dang, I don't think I'll ever get a bow that fits me this well with zero modifications to it whatsoever." And I haven't found one since. I shoot Hoyts now, and they're not a sponsor, so I don't mind plugging anything. But I shoot
Yeah,
Hoyts now, and they fit me well, and they're great bows, and I love
they
shooting
are.
them.
I shot Hoyt
But
for probably the last
but
14 years. But for some
yeah,
reason, the new elites came out the past year, and I just shoot them really well. So I've jumped ship to elite this
yeah.
year, and I love, I said they have the adjustability on their bows are phenomenal. They're just great
Mhm.
shooting bows too.
Yeah, they are. They are. And a comparison would be if you're a golfer, this putter feels better than that putter. And that putter feels better. And it's all about weight distribution and
Yes,
balance. And
sir.
same thing with the bow. It's the weight distribution, the balance, how much is, and the draw length is everything. Shoot them all and find the one that works for you within your budget.
Yep. And again, we've again on this podcast today, and like we talked about veterans and active duties that serve our country. But for you listeners out there that you're not a vet or you're not active duty, I mean, archery does tremendous things for you guys too. Don't think just because he's only talking to veterans. I'm not just talking to veterans or people that serve our country. I mean, no matter what you're going through, if you're having a tough time and you got some stuff at home that you're just not handling well, don't hesitate to pick up a bow. Think about picking up a bow and seeing if it helps you. If it doesn't
Yeah.
help you, then hey, it didn't help you. But hey, give it a try.
Yeah. Well, Rick, even if you're not going through something, it's still a
Yep.
great sport. It's
Oh,
a
it is.
great
Oh,
activity.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It
I don't
really
mean it
is.
like that, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
just because you can't shoot a bow unless you're going something. But it's just even if you're just not going through something, it gives you a little like peace of mind every day. Hey, I'm gonna just go out and have a little me time, shoot my bow, and uh, I'll get accused a lot of times if I'm having a bad day at home. I'll get told to go shoot my bow. They're
yeah,
like, you need to go shoot your bow for a little bit and come back and regroup. And I go out shoot a little bit, and it does. I come back in, I'm a little more mind's clear, and I'm like, okay,
mhm,
let's get back to
mhm.
reality.
Yeah, yeah, and also if you're not a hunter, you don't have to be a bow hunter to be an archer,
No, absolutely. I
right?
know tons of guys that I shoot target archery with. It they're not big on hunting, but they absolutely love shooting a bow.
Right, right, right. Um, and again, there's a lot of leagues out there at your local bow shops, or whether it's 3D archery, which are life size, lifelike animals
Yes, sir.
that you shoot at unknown yardages. There are known categories, but we're just go with the
Yep.
most at unknown yardages. And then there's also field archery, which you've explained, and then there's target archery, which can be indoors or outdoors,
Correct.
where you're basically shooting a bullseye. You're
Yes,
just
sir.
shooting a bullseye,
Yep. Just shooting
and
paper.
yeah, yeah, and at all different distances, whatever works for
Yep.
you.
Yep.
I
Here's
like the nine.
just for example, I happen to have a target right here. So this is something you would shoot it, for target archery or indoor archery. Just different
Right,
rings.
right. And it's one shot per each target, and then you go
Yes, sir.
pull them, and you go
Yep.
again, right? And you get 30 shots,
Yes, sir.
right? And that's I like the 900s because it's outdoors.
Yes,
I
sir.
like
Yep.
I like those. And a 900 for the listener is you shoot 30 arrows at 40 yards and 30 at 50 and 30 at 60. You usually start at the further distance and move forward. I wish they would do it the other way
Yeah.
because I want the fatigue factor to be a bigger part of it. You know what I'm
At the
saying?
closer distance. Yeah.
Yeah, I would rather the last 30 arrows be 60 yards
Yes,
so
sir.
that the fatigue factor is a much bigger part of it, being in shape and all that. But either way, it's still 90 arrows and it takes about 2 hours to do it. Um, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy the
Yep.
different distances. I enjoy the camaraderie when you're standing around waiting for your turn and all that stuff. It's just a lot of fun. It
Yeah,
really
and
is. It's a
a
lot.
lot of people that I've introduced archery to, that's one thing that they've noticed is that the archery community 9.5 times out of 10 is there to uplift each other. Um,
Hmm.
it's just a great brotherhood, great sisterhood, just a great commodity that goes between. I mean, you can go to a shoot if you've never been there, and somebody's going to let you jump in with them, and they're going to treat you like that. They've known you for years,
Yeah.
shoot with
Yeah.
you, have fun with you, talk to you. Just the community is
Right.
just so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. They're trying to beat you at the same time, but they're also helping you to do better,
Correct.
which I find like now we're competing head to head, and you're telling me, Pete, if you do this, you can get a little bit
Yeah,
better at that. That's pretty cool.
it
It
is. It's
really is.
one of the very few sports that I've ever competed in or played in where the person wants to beat you, but also is cheering for you in the same breath in archery.
Right. 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 And now for the non-veterans, I want to say this while we're talking about archery in general.
Yeah,
Um, as I said earlier, I'm 61 now, but when I was turning 50, I learned about the National Senior Games, which are Olympics for people over 50. I don't know if you've
correct.
heard of it. And
I
I was
have.
like, wait a minute, I can compete in that?
Yeah.
So I qualified for the national games several times and got to go compete at the national games. And man, that was so much fun. It's a 900 round too. So it
Yep.
fit right in my wheelhouse. Oh no, I didn't win. There's some guys that are really good out there. Okay. Like really good. Okay.
Yeah. But
I mean,
it's funny that you mentioned senior games. Actually, this is the first year I qualify for it.
oh, did you?
So, yeah, I was away at a different archery tournament when they had the local rounds this year. But I'm
The
looking forward
qualifying
into
was
I'm looking forward into competing in the senior games next year.
okay. Okay. And they're held all over the country. So
Yes, sir.
it's,
Hmm.
you get a chance to travel and you get a chance to meet different people. And the last one I did was down in Birmingham, but I was shooting with a guy who was from New Mexico and a guy from Wisconsin and a guy from there was one, two, yeah, there was four. It was guy from New Mexico, guy from Wisconsin, me from South Carolina, and the other guy was, I think he was from Georgia. So it was pretty close. But still, from all over the country, people
Yeah.
come and you get to, there was over 200 shooters there,
Yeah.
but for all categories,
Yes, sir.
all categories. And sidebar, the guy who won, I can't remember his name now, but he's from Wisconsin. Out of a possible 900, and we did it over 2 days. So 900 on one day and 900 the next, and they combined the scores. He shot a 896
Oh wow.
on day one, and day two he struggled. He shot a 894. So out of 90 arrows, he only missed the bullseye 4 times on day one. He got a
Must
nine. Just
must
right
not
at
have
the
been windy. That must not have been windy those days.
well, we were outside there in Hoover, Alabama, right outside of Birmingham, and it
Okay.
was very windy. It was hot
Yeah.
as blazes because the South. Um, but he was shooting the target right next to me too. So we go pull arrows. I'm like, this son of a gun does not miss.
Yeah.
He is right there.
Another
We won't talk.
another thing I thought about, I like to bring up is, guys, if you're looking for a place to shoot, look up Center Shot Archery.
Okay.
They do a lot of beginner classes or a lot of beginner organizations to try to help guys shoot bows as well. You can look
Awesome.
that up. Center Shot Ministries. They do a lot of that at churches. Or
Yep.
Center Shot Blue is one that they've started up in different areas to try to help with veterans, first responders, law
Okay.
enforcement.
Right. Right.
So
Right. And every state that I know of has some type of archery organization. Here in
yes,
South
sir.
Carolina, where I'm from, we have the South Carolina Archers Association and the South Carolina Bowhunters, which still does target shooting.
Yes, sir.
It's not just, but it's just a way to organize people. And we have shoots all over the state, beginning right after turkey season ends and goes all the way up until like October. So like from
Yes,
May to
yes, sir.
October, we have shoots just about every weekend somewhere in the country, somewhere in the state, and most states are that way.
Yes, sir.
Um, so, all right, we really got talking a whole lot about archery and not as much,
Yeah,
not enough about God. So we got to. This is a Christian show. God's like,
it
what about?
is.
Did you forget me?
No,
No,
hey, well, God, you're the whole reason we're here, and you're the reason we're talking. You're one of the reasons we're here and talking about archery,
absolutely.
and you've provided, He's provided us this sport and the knowledge to be able to try to help people through archery. Um, One of the other things that really, as I started shooting archery again, as I'm wearing the shirt today, we're talking about bow addicts. Another friend of mine, Chad Davis, he started this company, and he really loved God and he really loved shooting a bow. So he wanted to combine the two, and started making this Christian archery apparel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with it. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
He's
all about. I mean, I love God, and it's got the cross here and the thing, and every shirt that he makes has something about hunting and then something about God in it.
yeah.
So
Chad's
for
actually
you,
going to be on the show next week. I think I'm interviewing him
okay,
next
well,
week.
yeah,
So,
perfect. Yeah, you
yeah.
guys make sure you
Yeah.
give him a good listen. He's phenomenal, phenomenal Christian. Like I said, he's just like the rest of us. He loves the outdoors and he loves God.
And that's why we do what we do here, Rick, here at Christian Outdoors. Is that those two passions just consume me in a probably unhealthy way to some regard. But I do. I love everything about the outdoors, and I love Jesus, and I wanted a place where we could talk about both. And I've been
Yes,
blessed to
sir.
be able to meet so many people like yourself that share that same passion.
Yeah,
And so, if somebody wants to participate in what you do, let's tell the listeners how to do that. If they're a veteran and they're looking to get
yeah,
involved, let's give them very detailed how to get a hold of
yeah.
Rick and do that.
So if you're a veteran or you're active duty, even if you're active duty still, reach out to your branch because like for Warrior Games, Army has a team, Navy has a team, Marines have a team, and then I'm on a SOCOM team, which is a Special Operations team. But each branch has a team, and that you can get involved in. Um, so you reach out to them, try to figure out that way. As far as like outside of that, um, I'm Rick Devericks. You can find me on Facebook. If you need to email me, it's Devericks75 DEVERICKS 75 at yahoo.com. You can
Okay.
feel free to reach out to me, and I will do my best to get you help in wherever you're located, or if you just want to chat. And
Yeah.
you always email me up through there. We make a connection. I'll give you my number, and I'm willing to talk to anybody about archery or just anybody that needs to just talk.
Okay.
Too many times, we get into that. 22 a day. We lose veterans every day. 22 a day. The veterans that decide to take their life because they just cannot deal with what's going on in the world. We need a lot less of that.
We do.
We need brothers that'll reach out there, talk to you guys. We've all been there. Some of us don't like to open as much as others, but all you got to do is make that connection, and you'll be surprised that they're willing to talk to you. I'd rather spend an hour talking to you than having to come to your funeral.
Right. Right. And then there's the Warrior Games that you mentioned,
Yes, sir.
and you didn't explain Invictus. So
Oh
what's
yeah,
that?
we kind of skipped that. So in 2014, Prince Harry came and saw Warrior Games on the state side, and he was like, "I want to take this on a national level." So Prince Harry started the Invictus Games. So on the state side, you compete against each branch, Army, Navy, whatnot. If you get a chance to go to the Invictus Games, then that's our country competing against 20 other countries. And again, that's all
Huh?
20 countries that are wounded soldiers from that country or active duty soldiers from that country. It's phenomenal. It happens every 2 years, usually in a different. I got to compete in the Netherlands. We just had a winter one in Canada last year, and in 2026, Invictus will be in the UK.
Okay.
So and it's
Okay.
awesome. You're Team USA, and you get to compete against, like I said, 20 other countries and all those events we talked about: wheelchair rugby, basketball,
That's
seated
cool.
volleyball.
That's cool. That's cool.
So
It's a great, whether it's the Warrior Games, Invictus, or any of these other things, anytime we can get together, like the one that Chris Ham does, HHA USA,
correct.
whenever we can get veterans together to share a common passion, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's
The
a good.
the events that Chris is putting on for HHA USA, I finally had the privilege to be up there and go be a part of one a couple weeks ago when they did the Vortex. And the commodity he has there and the programs that he's running out of there are just it's unexplainable. Like the feeling you have when you leave there, it's just like wow. We joke around with him. We were calling him Connector Chris. That's what he does. He connects people with people that just like I said. Now I'm working with Index Archery to do the same thing that they're doing to help get bows into veterans' hands, and it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's amazing the experience. If you're a vet and you haven't been up to one of his shoots, you need or first responder even you need to look up
Yeah.
HHA USA and go to one of his shoots. You will not be disappointed.
And if I understand that right, that's any veteran. You don't have to be disabled, right? That's
No,
any
no,
veteran,
that's any veteran, any first responder, any law
law
enforcement.
enforcement. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll be an amazing experience. I promise you.
yes. Rick Devericks, thank you so much for joining us here on Christian Outdoors, man. What a great show. What a great conversation. I told you I was going to let you do all the talking, but we got on something I was passionate about, and I couldn't shut up either. So,
Hey, that's what happens when you find things two people are passionate about, and you know, give God. We just got to give God the glory at the end of the day. It's all
absolutely.
because of Him.
Absolutely.